I was preparing my remarks for this, and I watched a video of Tim Moore talking about HB2 when it was first introduced on a national network, and he called it an anti-discrimination bill. And I guess if you're working from the religious right, maybe you can see it that way, right? Because now you have the ability to decide not to service the LGBTQ community. And when I think about that, I think about the term privilege. And if you're a conservative Christian, heterosexual, cisgendered individual, then maybe that seems right to you, but it probably means you haven't given it a lot of thought. Now, I'm a Jewish person standing up in a church and talking, and, never thought I'd be that. I also thought I'd never be a target of discrimination because you don't see Jew, right? You don't see Jewish. But you do see trans, and I'll tell you that this, I have experienced a lot of fear associated with HB2, and it's not just, and I hear it from my patients too, because I have a couple dozen transgender patients too, and they don't just feel this fear in the bathroom. And I think of it like, I have some schools in my jurisdiction where the administration doesn't really crack down on bullying, and bullying becomes a problem. And then I have some schools in my jurisdiction where the administration is the bully, they condone the bullying, and now bullying becomes systemic. And that's what I see with House Bill 2. They talk about men in dresses shouldn't be going into women's room. It's just common sense, right? And they don't mean people pretending to be transgender. They're talking about me, right? They're calling me a man in a dress. And, it creates this thing in me called internalized transphobia. And I start fearing, well, this is wrong. I start thinking this is wrong, right? And I don't ever hardly even wear a dress unless I'm speaking in public. And let me tell you how hard it is to make a decision to show up in a different gender, to walk a path that's genderqueer or transgender, and change everything everybody knows about you as far as your appearance goes. And it's hella hard, take my word for it. And there's a lot of uncertainty, like you're gonna make this decision and do this, and trust me, I doubt that there's many people who didn't feel a ton of uncertainty about it. And especially when you do it at my age, like I didn't start this journey till I was 50. Really? What a surprise. She's over 50? Thank you very much. But I see this fear in my young patients as well, right? And then I finally get to present to the world who I am. And almost, if they had waited a week, it would have been a year to the day that I showed up at work as a trans individual. So, and now I become a second-class citizen overnight, right? And this legislation, it gives law enforcement the right to stigmatize us, right? There was a sheriff in South Carolina who said if he sees a trans person in the bathroom with his wife or daughter, he's going to whip them. Whip, that was the word he used. That harkens back to some other forms of discrimination, doesn't it? And then there was recently a Wake County sheriff who compared trans people to having a communicable disease and said something such as, trans people should be reported at the school to the families just like kids who have lice, right? So now I begin to wonder, am I safe anywhere, right? Not just walking into the restroom at the mall, not just, but when I go in to try out clothes at a local women's clothing store, there's that gauntlet of men who are waiting for their wives, and who's going to be the one to beat me up, right? And then I have to go into a restaurant and ask, well, are you affirming, can I use the restroom of my gender identity? So, and I want you to trust me when I say this, and I haven't spoken to all the trans people, but there's a lot of anxiety surrounding this, right? So we have this uncertainty about our transition, right? This internalized transphobia, because people keep calling us men in dresses. and then this fear that we're going to get the crap beat up out of us. And, you know, I'm happy to be in an affirming church. Thank you so much, Nathan, because a lot of this stems from people like Tammy Fitzgerald in the North Carolina Values Coalition, right? She's pushing this agenda. She encouraged people to write letters to the CMS school board not to affirm transgender identities. And they made the decision not to for other reasons, the Supreme Court decision. But, you know, I hear words like family values and religious freedom, pro-family, values voters, traditional values. You know, these are all code words for anti-LGBT. And I think Brent made it really clear that this legislation was crafted to cater to this small minority, depending on where you're from, this minority of people that go to the polls and vote and create these candidates. So, you know, everybody look at your voter's registration card, see who you need to vote for, and, you know, go to Equality North Carolina Voters Guide and carefully select who you're going to vote for, because, you know, we're in a fight for our lives.